Last up in this week's look at the Cybertron scouts that you could only get through Hasbro, we have Armorhide, the name you go to when there's already an Ironhide in your universe. Now this one is the one most people remember and know very well, and if you don't, oh boy, what rock you live under. It's unfortunate, but don't worry, we're going to inform you now. So as you remember, in Cybertron, Optimus Prime went and became a fire truck again, for whatever reason. So someone got to be a semi-truck, and in this case, it was the little dinky Armorhide here. Kind of passing off as one of those little hauler trucks. Kind of very Huffer or very Pipes-esque. And yes, I'm aware this mold eventually did become Huffer. Thank you, BotCon. And you'll see why a little bit more when we get to robot mode. But for now, it's a nice little semi-truck. Very simple in design, but has plenty of its own little details and touches going on here. It is cast primarily in a solid blue plastic, with some white, some gray, and some darker gray accenting everywhere. He does have quite a few plastics going on, but only one main color, so it stands out quite a bit. And you'll notice I'm already giving away what the gimmick is. Thank you, Thumb. So we do have a lot of paint here, too, since this is the mid-2000s and we still painted our Transformers back then. In particular, I like this silver along the side that kind of blends in with the front grille. That's a nice little touch. You also have headlights and turn signals that have been painted in appropriately here, as well as a nice silver on the windshield, and all of the windows have been accounted for. A little bit of red, too, giving it a little bit of an asymmetrical look. Along the top, more of that silver in the form of the traditional striping you would see on trucks like this. Another thing I like about this mold, there's very little to actually show it's a Transformer. I mean, sure, if you know how it works, you can kind of spot where the shoulders and arms and everything are, but for the most part, it's pretty well hidden. And even in the back here, where typically this style of semi-truck Transformer would show a lot of its robot bits, this one really doesn't do it so much. Even on the underside, it's pretty sparse, although you can see his head right there, which kind of gives it away. But it's a really solid little truck, and that's actually pretty cool. You do have a little bit of detailing going along, little panel lines and grooves, little bits here and there for rivet detail and such. That's all pretty typical stuff. Windshield wipers, that's a unique little thing that doesn't get remembered very often. And beyond that, a little bit of silver for the wheel rims and all that. And the main detail, of course, you've noticed by now, is the big crane arm that hangs off the back, so this looks like an actual vehicle of some kind. So, yep, done up in gray plastic with some metallic red going across the top, as well as the top, which is absolutely not a barrel for a gun in this mode. Why would you ever think that? But yeah, that's where his Autobot symbol lies, and that's where the most of his accessory will lie. And there's that tiny little hook, just to give you the impression that this is a work truck of some kind. Now, the gimmick in this mode can be activated. However, two caveats. Number one, you have to get rid of that. And number two, this is going to fit very flush to the rear. He does have a Earth-style Autobot key. And if we slide that in, and of course this is going to be a little bit tough to arrange. Hang on. Come on. It's hard to actually keep this thing in frame and then still like get the key where it's supposed to go. But yeah, if we insert the key all the way, flips the grill down and reveals 8 metallic red warheads ready to fire away. This instantly became a twisted metal vehicle. I love it. Or a mask vehicle now that I think of it. So yeah, this is a pretty effective gimmick. It's very simple. Just flip a panel down and it reveals a whole big missile battery. And that's perfectly well and good. That's actually a pretty, a pretty simple type of gimmick. It uses this big bulk of mass pretty well. And it does look effective. It looks like he's a very serious, heavily armed vehicle. So that's quite cool. And I like that it can be activated in that vehicle mode so effectively. And still roll around while it's out there too. And just for the sake of showing it, this is also one of the few Cybertron toys that has an actual spot that can hold on to the key when not in use. A little clip there on the side. Very few figures in the Cybertron line actually figured out that that was kind of an important thing, because everyone lost cyber keys. even me, and I kept my cyber keys in a freaking coin binder. So yeah, that's how the vehicle mode goes. Let's get to the robot mode, and this ain't gonna take long. First, pull all of this out to reveal his midsection and thighs. Flipping those over creates the legs, and then we flip the feet out like so. And that's pretty much half the toy done right there. Very quick. So, we'll do the same here. The rear splits, double hinges all the way to the side here. With that in place, we will rotate the arms around at the elbow. That creates our arms, and that flip up the head. It's as simple as that. Our little Armorhide is already done. Very quick, simple transformation, very effective. And you're going to see extremely clever in how it works, just because, hey, sometimes simple works really well. So, zooming in here, and we'll take a full look at Armorhide. He is a short and stocky little guy, as you'd expect from someone who turns into this tiny little semi-truck. It's quite appropriate for him, and again, you can see where the huffer parts of him kind of come from. Definitely has his own build here that's rather unique. He looks like one of those heavy bodybuilder types, where his body is like, it's not all like a pro wrestler muscular, but he still looks like he could like deadlift a Volkswagen if he really wanted to. So, taking a look at the head, he does have a huffer thing going on, so that might have been an intentional homage from the start. Nice round, smooth helmet, not a whole lot of detail going on, but it kind of works for him. It kind of does. And because it's a smallish head, it does make the rest of his body look just a little bit bigger, you know? It just has that kind of visual trick, and it does kind of work out for him pretty well. Here, I did notice one thing. The legs do slide out so we can get some separation in them. I know someone in the comments probably already caught that. Hey, I got it. Thank you, guys. So yeah, looking at him again, I do like the proportions on this guy. He definitely has something of a unique look for such a small little guy. Color-wise, we've got a lot more white working here now, breaking up the grays and the blues. And the blue itself split now between the legs and the chest, which divvies it up rather nicely. It's still a pretty simple color scheme, and he doesn't really reveal any new paint here aside from what was in the head. But for the most part, it does spread the colors out nice and wide, so it does kind of create a color balance, which is, of course, a good thing. The chest, the grill, definitely works. It still gives him that look of an armored chest without actually adding any new detail to it. It's just one of those things where, you know, just in a kind of classic Transformers-esque way, vehicle mode parts just work as solid parts of the robot. And in this case, with the actual windshield section taken away from it, it does look like a big box transformer or robotic chest. Especially upside down like this. It's a really clever bit of design and very simple to do. And for some reason, there's also part of me that kind of likes the wheels being up here in the chest. I don't know why, I just like detail like that. It's a little bit different than the norm. Detailing wise, he doesn't have a whole lot new going on. We pretty much saw all of this. The shoulders are completely new, but not a whole lot of extra detailing. Kind of keeps up some of the heavy truck designs with things like the diamond plate molding and such. Not a whole lot of terribly new stuff going on. But that, for the most part, is what makes him work so well, is he's a really efficient design and works really well. I mean, look how clean this guy ends up looking. Everything is just done right. Nothing's extraneous, nothing's hanging off. There's everything I could really want in a solid design going on here. That's really, really good. So, we get past that, we can go to the articulation. The ball joint in the neck works very well, and you got plenty of room to look up as well, just in case there's anything above him, and let's face it, for a short guy, there usually is. Ball joints in the shoulders, they don't have a whole lot of room, but you do have that hinge out there, so if you want, it's a little bit ugly, but you can increase his range of motion to the outside of his body. The ball joint in the elbow means it has full rotation as well as a 90-degree bend, a little bit beyond the 90. That works for me. Nothing at the waist, and this is kind of the only disappointment to him. The waist, I could use a lock. I could use some kind of tab or something to lock that into place, but it has enough friction to really hold, so I'm not terribly annoyed by it. I am annoyed that it's just one solid piece, and it seems like even if it was just with a mushroom peg, you could have put a waist joint in this figure, so that's about the only knock I can put to that. Thighs, ball jointed, works pretty well, and it does have a good cut, unlike the last couple that we've looked at, so it actually does have a good level of articulation. And thanks to the transformation, the knee, of course, a full 180-degree bend. A little bit of rock to the ankle. Not a whole lot, though. Don't count on it for much. Still, for a stocky guy who mostly has the power lifter build, he does have a good level of articulation to him. He can definitely hold his own in his size class and still give you a few dynamic poses to be interesting. And then, of course, he does have everything else he can still do. For starters, we're going to go ahead and give him his weapon, which now, of course, that big shiny tip is actually the barrel of his gun. So that does give him a little bit of firepower in this mode. Or if you want, pretend that hook is still part of this and he's just, like, has the best grappling hook ever. That also works for me. As far as the actual gimmick, still works in this mode. And if I'm right, it works with the key in either direction. Yep. So no matter what, the key can stay straight up, upright, and pointed upward, and the key slot still works. Nice little bit of thought there. And yeah, he looks very heavily armed as his entire torso is ready to unleash a maelstrom of missiles upon anyone who dare threaten him. He's not kidding around. I do quite like that about him. So, gimmick still works really well. It doesn't get in the way. See? Big solid chunk of engineering there. It's a big gimmick, but it's simple and it doesn't get in the way. That's the kind of gimmick I really, really like. So that, my friends, is Cybertron Armorhide. One of the shining examples of this toy line, whereas even if it wasn't in Japan, doesn't mean it was a slouch. This guy has a lot of subtle, clever engineering, pretty simple as far as transformation goes, but still satisfying enough. And he comes up with a very clean vehicle, a clean robot, good articulation, great gimmick. All around, this is definitely a highlight of the Cybertron line, and you don't even need the Takara version to enjoy it. Never mind the fact there's no Takara version, but whatever.